Hi everybody, so today's class we're going to be doing just a simple basic square nail. I always like to make sure I include these with my shaping classes because it's just sort of like a foundation shape, and it is important that we all still know how to do a square nail. I know they're not as popular as they were, but they're starting to make a little bit of a comeback. So I wanted to make sure that I did include these with this shaping series. It is an important shape, and it's the base that I kind of like to see everyone knows how to do. This is going to be a two-part class. So the first video obviously is we're just going to do a basic square. The second video we're going to be doing a more modern kind of a salon style square. So you'll get to learn just the basic one and then the slightly more upscale square if your clients choose to go that route too. So let's get started. As always, I'm using my Accents Balance gels. I'm using a cool pink today. I'm going to be using my OptiBond. I have some linkage, and again, pinching tool. I say this every class. You guys make sure you have a pinching tool. CanadaNailSupplies.com carries these. I'm using my oval 111 brush for sculpting. I've got my Pro Tab form. I have my rounded end safety bit. This isn't a coarse grit. I'm going to be using this for just a product takedown. My lovely little pink ceramic cuticle bit, which I love, and just a little pair of scissors if I need to do a little bit of trimming on my form. And we're good to go. Let's get started. So first things first, I'm just going to do a little bit of cuticle work and make sure that everything is cleaned up. I've just taken a couple nails off of these fingers, so I don't have a ton of cleanup to do, but we'll do a little bit on here anyway. And I probably still have a little bit of gel still on these couple of nails too, so we'll just work around that. Okay, so we're going to clean that back. Now, when I'm using my little cuticle bit, I'm using an Erica's MT20, so the speed on my E-file is about 1/4 of the way up. When you're doing cuticle work, you don't need your bit spinning super fast. Just a nice slow to medium speed is all you're going to need. Okay, so I'm just going to take this bit, and there's no pressure on it. It's very light. I'm just going to glide this over the cuticle area and get rid of any little bit of dry skin. Clean this up. Now, one of the wonderful things about doing cuticle work is that obviously we're cleaning up the nail, making sure that there's no dead skin, no cuticle, nothing on there is going to cause any excess lifting. But we're also exposing a lot more nail, so your service will last that much longer, which is a good thing. There, that's all I'm really going to need to do to myself today. I am going to get rid of this little bit of dry skin on the sides. Perfect. I'm just going to wipe this off, and we will pop on our form. Now, this is just a basic straight form placement. Nothing too crazy. I will show you though, I'm going to show you how to cut your form to fit properly. My nail bed underneath has grown out quite a bit because I usually wear my nails longer. So I do need to trim my form to fit my finger. So I will show you how to do that. So I always make sure I use the little button on my form. I'm just going to stick this right on the back. And before I put my form on, I always roll them. Get a nice curve built into your form before you stick it on your fingernail. If you put a form on and it's just flat, you've just got a flat form and there's absolutely no shape to it. So you're much better off to, just roll your form first. And that gives you a much better idea of how things are going to look. Now with these forms, because I'm putting this on my own hand, there's our curve that we've worked into there. I'm going to close this form first because it will be easier to get this on my finger. Now, I do need to trim this form. I know that already, but I'll show you why. If I just put this form on my finger like this and stick it on there so it's straight, very important that we have a straight form for this shape, and I put this on here, right away you'll see the problem. I got a big gap on either side of that form and it's not comfortable. It's kind of digging into the end of my finger. So what we need to do is cut a U shape into the top of that form so it sits properly onto my finger. Now you can use a hole punch to do this. I like using my little scissors, but lots of techs have a hole punch. But basically what you want to do is just cut this sort of U shape into the form so it sits on your client's finger or my finger, that much better. And free edge, please, non-existent free edge, okay? So if you guys have a lot of extra nail when you go to put your form on, what's going to happen is the nail is going to stick out past the form, and when you go to finish file your product, the natural nail is going to cause a weak spot in the structure of the gel and it'll break. Or the natural nail itself is going to poke out of the shape that you're trying to get. So make sure that you have very little free edge, okay? And a rounder shape, if you can, is so much better than really, really square. We don't want corners. Follow the shape of the natural nail. All right, if your client does have a really square nail bed, try as much as you can to get those corners off. It's super important, okay? So this already, when you put this on, you can see how much better that's fitting. I have no gaps on my finger and it's not sore when I'm putting this on my own finger, okay? So what we are doing now is a square shaped nail, just a basic square. So I want you guys to put your form on so that it's coming off straight from the fingernail, okay? I don't want to see it angling down, and for this purpose we're not angling it up. This is just a straight application, okay? Make sure that your center line is really, really straight. And because this is just a basic square nail, we're not going to go crazy long with it. You don't need to worry about the fact that, like, I've pinched my form a little tiny bit, it's tapering. That's okay. I'm only going to do my nail out to about the S, so that's all right. If we were working with a really strict, like a pipe shape, or that had to be very, very structured, then we'd have to make sure that this was square all the way out. But this is just going to be a short square, so it's fine. All right, so make sure that your form is straight and straight this way, okay? Very important that your form application is straight. So I'm going to just take a few pictures along the way here, and I will post these up in our group, which I will tell you about right now. Come to think of it, I'll do this now before we get going too far. Let me just pull up my page here. So this is our Facebook group. So you can look up on Facebook the nail files, Robyn Schwartz students. When you purchase a class, you can request to join my group. There's a couple questions you'll need to answer, and then I'll add you in. Here's where you can post your photos, any questions that you have, and I will help you all along the way to make sure that you guys understand what you're doing. So request to join after you bought the class, and this is where we do all our stuff, okay? So that's that. Now, what I'm going to do is apply a coat of my linkage and then a coat of my OptiBond. I'll just let that dry for a minute. And all the products that I'm using are accents. You guys use whatever you want. Doesn't matter if you guys are using acrylic or if you're using like a polygel kind of idea, if you're using a different brand of gel, it really doesn't matter. Use what you're comfortable with by all means. I'm doing a 30-second cure with my LED light. If you guys are still using a UV lamp, when we get to the pinching stage, the pinch time may vary depending on your lamp and your gels. So Like I do about a 3 to 5 second freeze cure before I pinch my gel. If you find you need a little bit more time, go ahead and do that. Basically what will happen is the gel will sort of spring back out and it'll be a little bit like gooey still. If you find that's happening, throw your fingernail back in the light and give it a couple more seconds, okay? So I'm just gonna build out my free edge first. Now this doesn't need to be a thick layer, this can be thin because we are going to pinch this. Now the very, very important thing is because this is a square nail, I want you guys to make sure that you're going all the way down to the sidewalls, making sure that it's coming out straight. Okay, very important, do not shortchange these sidewalls, especially with the square shape, because square is square. It's not a rounded shape, it's not a coffin, it is square, okay? So right down there, and then come straight out. If you end up cutting your sides in too far, you will create a weak spot, and that's going to leave the nail open to breaking, so we don't want to do that. So I'm just applying a thin layer of product here. And try and shape your free edge as much as you can when you are doing this. It's going to keep you from having to chase product around, file too much. It'll just make your finish time that much quicker. You guys see okay? So I'm just taking my brush and I'm just going to wipe this straight up. And on this side, I did pretty good right there. So straight up. Now see how I've got my product all the way down here? Make sure that you're doing this too, okay? And straight. Make sure that your sides and your top are super straight. I'm a real stickler for square. So when you guys are posting your square nails, please make sure they're square. I hate to see rounded nails when they're supposed to be square. Okay, so I've just got a couple seconds for my pinch, cure, my freeze cure. Now, because our form has a decent placement, I don't need to pinch too much, but I'm going to pinch a little bit because I want to make sure that my curve is really good. So I'm just going to pinch a little bit right here. Now, if you have the pinchers like these that self-close, do not let them close because you're going to end up with a weird, odd shape. Just let them bring the gel in slightly. And this is a good consistency for tightening this up. My gel is not springing back. If anything, I can feel it actually getting a little bit tighter on my finger, which is perfect. Now, by doing this, we're creating a nice tight C curve, okay? Which is going to give us strength and allow us to create a thin but strong nail, okay? Super important. All right, so there's our C curve. All right, so in the light we go. We're going to give that a full cure. 30 seconds for me. If you're using a UV light, you can just go like a minute maybe, and that should be enough to hold the gel so it's not going to go anywhere. I will get a picture of this too before we move forward here. Okay, so now we're going to build this nail. Now, a square shape many years ago had the stress area as the apex, but we're not doing that anymore because it's outdated. And when that apex grows out, you have all that bulk at the front of the nail, which creates weight and allows the nail to break that much easier. What we're doing now is putting the apex towards the back of the nail, and we're going to make a shape that is straighter and leaner and less bulky. So I put all my product at the back here, and all I'm doing is just working it forward. And I've got my brush quite straight on the fingernail. I'm basically just pulling this gel forward, making sure that it's rounded this way, but straight this way. So what we're doing essentially is creating a tube, okay? But you can see where I've got my height right here. So I dropped my ball of product here and I just took my brush and just basically pulled it forward. And that's pretty much all you need to do. This is a very simple shape to create. Just going to straighten that out on that side. I have a little air bubble right there, so I'm just going to work around and get rid of that. That's one of the wonderful things about gel, especially with this balanced gel. It's so forgiving. We can just move it around and put it back into place and we're done. Now, one of the goals that I'd like to see you guys achieve is that your application be as smooth as it can be, so that when it comes time to finish file, you don't have to spend a lot of time doing that. You can just basically do a quick buzz over with your e-file and a quick whip over with your hand file to finish file it, and you should be able to do a quick set of square nails in no time. See? Basically, that's a square. Application's pretty smooth, pretty easy. So think of a square now as a tube, instead of, you know, we used to do the shaping back here with an arch this way and then rounded that way. We're doing basically apex back here and straight, and then round this way. Okay? Everybody get that? So I'm going to go ahead and cure this. I'm just going to come in and out a few times because this poor fingernail has had many nails off and on it in the last couple weeks. And then finish filing a square shape is very simple because it's a very uncomplicated shape that we're doing. Okay, I'm going to go another 30 seconds there. And I will get some pictures of this stage before we have filed it. Now I will be using my rounded end safety bit. I love these because they are rounded on the end. You can get close to the client's cuticle, you're not going to do any damage. And I personally like using the coarse bits. I find the medium bits dull out too fast for my liking, so I do tend to stick with the coarse ones. Okay, let me grab a quick photo of this. Now, when you guys are taking pictures for me, I want you to take as many angles as you can so I can see everything that you're doing. Super helpful that I see as much as I can, because in that way, if there is an issue, I can help you a lot easier. Okay, so let's pop this form off of here. I'm going to put my bit in my e-file. Okay, so the first thing we do when we're finished filing this shape is we do the free edge first, and then we come down and file the sides. Now, because we have, whoops, I'm stuck there. Because we have created the apex at the back of the nail, what we're going to do is fake out how long this free edge is, okay? So traditionally, when we were placing the apex in the stress area, we would start our finished file here because that's where the stress area is. But now we're doing our apex towards the back. So we have all this extra space so we can actually fake out where we start to file. So see how far down I went with my nail file right here? We can fake out that our nail starts here because our apex is right here, okay? So when you're filing, come all the way down the side and make sure that that side wall is nice and straight. Now, with a square, please pay attention that your file is straight on both sides, okay? I see this a lot and it's very common. One side gets crooked. Usually it's your non-dominant side, so if you're right-handed, the right-hand side is always awesome, and then the left-hand side kind of like veers off or it gets wobbly. So really concentrate and make sure that both sides are very straight. And no flicking of the file, okay? Keep in control and keep everything really straight and tidy. Super important. Square is square. Square is not crooked, okay? So I'm just gonna come up on the sides here and make sure that these are straight and even. Okay, so there's our beginning shape for our square. Let me get the dust off of that. Okay, so let's come in with our e-file and do some debulking. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up around the cuticle. I'm going to come straight down each side, straight, straight, straight. And then the last thing I'm going to do is blend this whole middle section together. Okay, very easy. So we're going to do the cuticle. Make sure that's nice and smooth in there. Okay, the sides will come straight down, not angled, not rounded, straight. I'm not touching the center part yet, okay? Straight down the side. Again, the center part is still good. Okay, you can see where I filed. And now I'm going to take my e-file. I'm going to glide over the top and blend everything together. Now I'm not putting a lot of pressure on here. I do not want to flatten this out because what we are creating, remember, is a tube. Okay? So I'm just going to go over this again a little bit and blend a little spot that I missed. Your e-file's here to do your work for you, not create more work. So don't put a heavy hand on your e-file. Okay? It's just a gliding motion. So I'm going to get the dust off my hand here. And we will come back with our hand file and touch up our shape. So we're going to go straight across again. And make sure this line is straight. Okay, not a crooked line, nice and straight. Now I'm going to come down the sides again and make sure that's nice and solid there too. I'm always checking my perimeter too, okay, you guys? Always check your perimeter, make sure everything is even and straight. Okay, very, very important. Because to me, that's the first thing I always start with is the perimeter. It gives you a much better visual and it allows you to tighten up that instant nail, and then you can just go back and smooth it. Okay, so finish file by hand basically is the same thing we just did with the e-file. We're going to go around the cuticle, straight down the sides, and then blend in along the top. Okay, and you'll notice as I'm going to turn my finger a little bit this way so I can see myself a little bit better. This is just a light pressure with my file. If you're working with gel, it's such a beautiful product to file because you don't need to put a lot of pressure on it. Okay, as I'm filing, I'm turning my own hand. When you're working on your client this way, make sure you're always turning your hand, okay? Don't ever like seesaw back and forth in one direction. It's nice, light little motions, okay? And again, I'm not touching the center section, okay? So I'm going to come down the sides, making sure my file is straight. Okay, and now I'm going to just do a nice C-curve motion all the way down from here all the way down to the bottom. And what I'm doing is just blending in that middle area. And again, I've always got my file moving, my client's hand is moving, everything's going together. And you can see I'm just going around from side to side. Stop and check your C-curve. We can go a little tiny bit thinner on that. The general rule of thumb is that it should be about the thickness of a credit card. You can go a little tiny bit thinner if you would like, but I wouldn't suggest going a ton thinner. That's pretty good. Make sure that there's no high spots. Make sure it's all even all the way across. And I'm just going to take my buffer, get rid of any small scratches that may be in there. Smooth out the surface. Get the dust off my hand too, so you guys can see. Okay, so there's our square. It's such an easy shape to do. There's the side. There's the other side, and there's our C-curve. Simple little basic everyday square, nothing fancy. but it's a good shape and it's a solid shape. And I know a lot of clients still like square. I personally love to leave corners on a square nail. I love how that feels. After a couple days, it does dull out. If your client wants the corners gone, just gently angle the file underneath a little bit and smooth those out. So you're not losing the overall shape, but you're just losing those points. That's basically it. Okay, easy peasy, simple square. I'm just gonna grab some quick pictures here. If you guys have questions about a square, and let me see your work, post on the page, whatever you're needing help with. Again, take as many angles as you can for me so I can see what's going on. Okay, and we'll see you guys all on the Facebook page. Thanks for taking this class. Hopefully we'll see you in part 2 for a more modern style salon square nail. See you guys later. Bye.